everyone, I am Deep Patel from the Department of Mechanical Engineering. As you all know, we were discussing about the chapter number 7, that is the IC engine. And in the second lecture, we have discussed about the 4-stroke petrol engine. So first of all, you have to remember what was the stroke and how the stroke happens with the movement of piston. Okay, so first of all, you have to remember there are total 4 strokes: suction, compression, power and exhaust. Okay, sometimes power stroke is also known as the expansion stroke. Okay, so in the petrol engine what happens? The mixture of petrol and air was generated in the carburetor. After that, that mixture of petrol and air was introduced into the cylinder during the suction stroke. After that, that mixture is compressed during the compression stroke, and because of the compression, the pressure and temperature of the mixture of petrol and air was rise. Okay, after that, there was one spark plug from which spark is created, and due to that spark, the mixture of petrol and air was ignite. After that, the expansion stroke start. Due to the ignition of petrol and air, the higher amount of energy is generated, and that is known as the power stroke. During the power stroke, the smoke is generated and piston is moved from top dead center to the bottom dead center, and after that, during the exhaust stroke, this burnout gases or the smoke is released to the atmosphere via outlet valve. Okay, so these were the 4 strokes which is happen in the petrol engine. Okay, so we call it as a 4-stroke petrol engine. Now, in this lecture, we are going to discuss about the 4-stroke diesel engine. Then we will compare between the 4-stroke petrol engine and 4-stroke diesel engine. Okay, so let us start our discussion with the 4-stroke diesel engine. Okay, so first of all, you have to see this figure and you have to understand what is the difference between the petrol engine and the diesel engine. In the petrol engine, on the head we provide one spark plug, but here you can see from the figure, here we have not provided the spark plug. Instead of spark plug, we are using the fuel injector. Okay, now what is the function of fuel injector is we have already discussed in our lecture number 1. That is, fuel injector is used to atomize the fuel particles, okay, or the diesel particles. Okay, now the second difference you can see, in the petrol engine the mixture of petrol and air was generated in the carburetor, but here in the diesel engine no carburetor is present, so directly only air will introduce during the suction stroke. So this is the second major difference. Okay, so let us start understanding one by one all the 4 strokes for the diesel engine. Okay, so let us begin with the suction stroke. Okay, so first of all, in the suction stroke what happens? The air will comes into the cylinder, okay, and during which the piston is moves from the top dead center to the bottom dead center. Okay, simultaneously what happens? The crank will move from 0 to 180 degree. Okay, inlet valve will open and fresh air will come into the cylinder. Okay, so you have to write 3 processes in the suction stroke. The fresh air will comes into the cylinder via inlet valve. The piston will move from top dead center to the bottom dead center, and crank will rotate from 0 degree to 180 degree. Okay, so these are the 3 processes occur. Okay, next is the compression stroke. Now during the compression stroke what happens? The inlet valve and the outlet valve both will be closed. Okay, and piston will move from the bottom dead center to the top dead center. Simultaneously the crank will rotate from 180 degree to 0 degree. Now during this what happens? the air which is already present into the cylinder will compress, and due to this compression the temperature and pressure of the air will rise. Okay, this is the end of compression stroke. Now at the end of compression stroke, what happens? The pressure and temperature of the air will be very high. Okay. After that, what happens? We will provide fuel or diesel from the fuel injector. Okay. So fuel injector will atomize the diesel into the small particles. Okay. So what happens? The temperature of air will very high, and it is at the self ignition temperature of the diesel. Okay, so the temperature of air is at the self ignition temperature of the diesel. So when this atomized particle of the diesel is comes into the contact of air, it will start ignite. Okay, so we can say that in the diesel engine the air will reach at the self ignition temperature, and when the particle of the diesel is comes in the contact of air, automatically the ignition start. Okay, so this is the basic difference in the petrol engine and in the diesel engine. In the petrol engine, what we done, we provide one spark to ignite the mixture. Here, due to the temperature of air is very high, when diesel is comes into the contact of air, diesel will automatically burn. Okay, so this is the basic difference between the petrol engine and the diesel engine. Now, so during the expansion stroke, what happens? Diesel will start to ignite, and due to the ignition of this diesel, the higher amount of energy is generated, which will create force on the piston. So due to this force, piston will move from the top dead center to the bottom dead center. Simultaneously, the crank will rotate from 0 degree to 180 degree. Okay. So this is the power stroke. After the combustion of diesel, the smoke is generated inside the cylinder. Okay. Now next is the exhaust stroke. During the exhaust stroke, what happens? The inlet valve will remain closed and the outlet valve will open. Now the piston is moves from the bottom dead center to the top dead center, and because of this movement of piston, the exhaust gases, or we can say that the smoke which was generated due to the combustion of the diesel, that will escape out from the cylinder to the atmosphere via outlet valve or the exhaust valve. Okay, and the crank will rotate from 180 to 0 degree. Okay, so these are the four strokes of the diesel engine. So we can say that in the suction stroke, the fresh air will comes into the cylinder, piston will move from top dead center to the bottom dead center, and crank will move from 0 to 180. In the compression stroke, both the valve will be closed and piston will move from bottom dead center to the top dead center. The temperature and pressure of the air will be raised due to this compression, and the crank will rotate from 180 to 0. After that, what happens? The diesel will come from the fuel injector, and after the diesel particle comes into the contact of the air, it will start ignite. Okay, so we can say that the combustion process is start. Now during the third stroke, due to this combustion, the high power is generated or high energy is generated, and that will create force onto the piston. So the piston will move from top dead center to the bottom dead center. Simultaneously, the crank will rotate from 0 to 180. During this process, both the valve will be closed. Now, in the fourth stroke, that is the exhaust stroke, in the exhaust stroke, piston will move from bottom dead center to the top dead center, and the outlet valve will be open and inlet valve will be closed, so that the burnout gases or the smoke which was generated after combustion can escape out from the cylinder to the atmosphere. Okay, so these are the four strokes. After that, the cycle is repeated again. Suction is start. So suction, compression, power, and exhaust stroke begins. Okay, so this is what all about the four stroke diesel engine. Okay, now our second topic of today's lecture is comparison between the SI engine and the CI engine, or we can say that comparison between the petrol engine and the diesel engine. So SI engine means the spark ignition engine. So we all know that spark is used in the petrol engine, so we can say it as a petrol engine. Second is the compression ignition engine, that is the CI engine. So we know in the diesel the ignition done because of the compression. Okay, so we can say that it is the compression ignition engine. Okay, so now let us discuss one by one all the points. First, the petrol engine is based on the Otto cycle. Okay, so that we have already discussed in our chapter number 5, that all the petrol engines are run on the Otto cycle and all the diesel engines are run on the diesel cycle. Okay. Second, here petrol is used as a fuel because it is the SI engine, and here diesel is used as a fuel because it is a CI engine. Second, the compression ratio is varies between the 5 to 9 in the case of the petrol engine. Here the compression ratio is vary between the 14 to 20 in the case of CI engine. Okay, so the compression ratio will plays the major role in the air standard efficiency, because we know the formula of the air standard efficiency for the petrol engine or the SI engine or for the Otto cycle, that is the 1 minus 1 upon R raised to gamma minus 1. Here this small r is the compression ratio. So for the petrol engine it is vary between the 5 to 9. Okay. Next, the initial cost is low, and in the CI engine the initial cost is high. Okay, that we all know that the petrol engine initial cost is low, and in the diesel engine the initial cost is high. Why this is happen? Because here the petrol engines are small compared to the diesel engine. Okay, so the initial cost will be low in the case of petrol engine and the initial cost will be high in the case of diesel engine. Okay, next, lighter in weight and the diesel engine is heavier in the weight. So we can say that for the same power production, if we compare petrol engine and diesel engine, so we can say that the petrol engine are more compact than the diesel engine, and also they are lighter compared to the diesel engine. Okay, next is the low thermal efficiency, and the CI engine is a high thermal efficiency. Okay, next, the high speed engines due to lightweight. Okay, so we all know that the petrol engines are generally high speed engine and the diesel engines are the low speed engine. Okay, here in the petrol engine the spark is used for the ignition purpose, and in the CI engine are the self ignition engine. Okay, that we have already discussed in our previous lecture and today's lecture, that to ignite the mixture of petrol and air we need one spark plug. Okay, but in the case of the diesel engine, to ignite the diesel we have to compress the air at the higher temperature or at the self ignition temperature of the diesel. So when it will contact with the air, diesel will automatically burns out. Okay, so these are the major difference between the SI engine and the CI engine. Okay, so in this lecture we have discussed about the main two topic. First is the 4-stroke diesel engine. Second, we have discussed about the spark ignition engine and the compression ignition engine. Okay, so this is the end of our lecture. Thank you for today.